Hi everyone, welcome to another session from Law and Language from Dharmapeetam. So in the previous session we had discussed verbs in detail, and now the topic that we have in front of us is nothing else but an auxiliary verb. So the first point is we need to understand what an auxiliary verb is. So what does it do? What does an auxiliary verb do? It helps. An auxiliary verb helps. Whom? Whom? The main verb. So the auxiliary verb helps a main verb. Where? In a sentence. So auxiliary verb helps the main verb in a sentence. Why? To complete its meaning. The sentence that we convey has to have a meaning, and that meaning has to be expressed completely in a perfectly meaningful way. For that, the main verb needs some kind of an assistance, and that assistance is given by the auxiliary verb. When the sentence is based on a tense form, or the sentence has to convey something specific. Okay, so there are two distinctive situations where the main verb of a sentence has to take the assistance of an auxiliary verb. One, when it is based on a tense form. Two, if that sentence is expressing something specific like some possibilities, abilities, giving some kind of suggestions, advices, kinds of things. Right? So a word that helps the main verb in a sentence to complete its meaning when the sentence is constructed based on a tense form or expressing something specific is called an auxiliary verb. We need to just understand that, nothing else. We need not by heart it. Right? Now, which are the auxiliary verbs? How many auxiliary verbs are there? Which are they? There are 24 auxiliary verbs. 24 auxiliary verbs. These auxiliary verbs are is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had, is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, need to, dare, ought to, used to, must. Okay. Now, how are these auxiliary verbs classified? There is a separate classification for auxiliary verbs as well. These 24 auxiliary verbs are further divided. There are of two types basically. The first set is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had. Right? Is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had. These are the first classification, and they are called the primary auxiliary verbs. Okay? Is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had. They are called the primary auxiliary verbs. And now we have the second category: can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, need, dare, used to, ought to, must. These are the second category, and we call them modal auxiliary verbs. Modal, D-A-L, not D-E-L. Modal auxiliaries. So auxiliary verbs are further classified into two: primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. Now, we have to have an understanding regarding the differences between primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries as well. Right? The first difference is that primary auxiliaries can be used as, the first difference is that the primary auxiliaries have 5 verb forms. So this 5 verb forms is a speciality that usually the main verbs have, right? All the main verbs actually have this 5 categories, 5 forms of them. Primary auxiliaries also can have it. So what are these 5 categories? The first one is base form. Okay, base form. Base form means this is the form from which all these 5 forms have emerged. The first form that has emerged out of the base form is nothing else but the present tense. Present tense. The second is past tense. Third is past participle. Fourth is present participle. And the fifth is future tense. Right? So present tense, past tense, past participle, present participle, and future tense. So present tense is usually known as V1, the first form of verb. Past tense is known as V2, the second form of verb. Past participle is known as the V3, the third form of the verb. We do not call present participle as a V4 or future tense as V5. Avoid it. So main verbs have these 5 forms. Now let us consider a main verb. Earlier we had consulted one verb which is called walk. W-A-L-K, walk. So in present tense we can use either walk or walks. W-A-L-K, walk, or the S added format of walk is walks. Both walk and walks can be used in a present tense. Past tense, walked, ed. It's a regular verb, so we add ed to that. Walked. Past participle form of the verb, again adding ed, it's walked. Now present participle. Present participles of verbs are formed basically by adding ing. So ing form of verbs are basically called the present participle form of the verb. So when we add ing to this particular verb walk, we get walking. Walking. So walking is the present participle form of the verb walk. Now future tense. Future tense is usually denoted by the usage of will or shall. Will or shall plus base form of the verb. Right? Will or shall plus base form of the verb. We will discuss this point in another session, don't worry. So will or shall walk is a future tense of walk. Now we have all the 5 forms of the verb called walk here. The base form is walk, present tense is walk or walks. They walk, he walks. When it comes to past tense, it's walked. Past participle, it's walked. Present participle, it's walking. Future tense, will or shall, walk. Now let us consider another verb. Yeah, we'll go for an irregular verb, eat. The base form is eat. Present tense form is eat or eats. Present tense always have 2 forms, right? So eat or eats. Past tense, it's an irregular verb which creates its past tense by internal changes. So it's ate, ate. Past participle form, eaten, eaten. Present participle form, it's adding ing, so eating. And the future tense, will or shall eat. Will or shall eat. Now let us consider a verb from the no change category, cut. Present tense can be either cut or cuts. Past tense, there won't be any change. So cut remains cut. Past participle, cut again, no change. Present participle, ing form, cutting, cutting. Future tense, will or shall, cut. Right? So all categories of main verbs can be brought into this particular format, means all main verbs have these 5 forms. Now, when we think about the primary auxiliary verbs, they have these 5 forms. Right? So in the primary auxiliary verbs, is, am, are, was, were. These 5. Is, am, are, was, were. These 5 are actually originated from the base form called be. So is, am, are, were can be considered as the verbs from the be form. Right? So the base form here is a be. Be. Now, considering the present tense, is used in present tense, am is used in present tense, are is used in present tense. So is, am, are, all these 3 are in present tense, right? While coming to past tense, we have was or were. Was and were are the past tense form of be. Past participle form of be is been, B-E-E-N, been. Present participle form is being, ing form, being. Future tense, will or shall plus base form. So the base form here being be, will be or shall be. So will or shall be is the future tense form of be. Now, has, have, had. These 3 verbs have emerged from the base form called have. So has, have and had are called as the have forms. Right? So they are called have forms. So the base form is have. From have, we have a has or have in the present tense. Has or have in a present tense. Right? Now, past tense is had. Past tense is had. Past participle form of have is also had. Present participle form is having, but its usage has got its own problem. We will discuss that also later. Having. Future tense is will or shall have. Will have, shall have. Right? Now, third one, do, does, did. So do, does, did, these 3 have actually emerged from the do form. The base form is a do. Do. Now do or does, these 2 are in the present tense category. He does, they do. Right? So that is present tense. Past tense, did. Past participle, done. D-O-N-E. Present participle, doing. Future tense, will do or shall do. See, just like those 3 verbs in the top, all the primary auxiliaries are categorized into these 5 verb forms. So, primary auxiliary verbs have 5 verb forms just like the main verbs. Right? But modal auxiliaries do not have. That's a problem. So let's consider the modal auxiliary verbs. So can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might. So they do not have any base form practically. So we cannot keep any word in the base form. Can, could. Yeah, we can consider can in the present tense. But there is only can, there is no cans. If we use the word CANS, that is a plural form of the noun called can. Something like a water can. If there is only one can, we can say single can. If there are more cans, then we say yes, as I said, cans. So the verb can, it have got no plural and a singular difference. Can, that's it. Past tense, could. Could. There is no third category of past participle form as far as can is concerned. Have you heard anything like a coulded or canned? The canned, the word is there. Again, the process by which we put something inside a can and seal it, just like the soft drinks which comes in the can. The process by which this can is filled with the drink and seal it and brought it out to the market is called canned or canning. Canned food, we know. It's an adjective. The process by which this food is getting canned is called canning. That's a main verb, not an auxiliary verb. And again, we cannot say will can or shall can. Right? No will can or shall can. So there is no past participle form, there is no present participle form, there is no future tense as far as the modal verbs are concerned. The maximum they can have is present tense or past tense. That's it. Right? So this is the first difference between the primary auxiliaries and the modal auxiliaries. The primary auxiliaries, just like the main verbs, have got 5 verb forms, whereas the modal auxiliaries, they do not have any such differences. Right? There are 4 more differences between the primary auxiliaries and the modal auxiliaries. We will go with them in detail one by one in 4 other sessions. That's for the day. Thank you.